Hi and welcome back. I have decided to do a part two of the Making Peace with Letting Go video because I have had such a reaction to that video. So many people reached out and said, how powerful it was, how much it resonated with them, and how helpful it was to them. And I just felt like, when you have 10 minutes or so to talk on a topic, you're only really like touching the tipping the iceberg, touching the tip of the iceberg. That was a tongue twister for me, for sure. So I said I'd follow on because one of the points I suppose I want to emphasize about letting go of people or events or outcomes isn't always about banishing them. It doesn't mean that you have to necessarily fall out with people or they have to exit your life. Letting go can also be letting go of your expectations of them. So sometimes it can be in a relationship, you want somebody, a relationship can be a love relationship, it can be a friendship, it can be a work relationship, but it can be that you have an expected outcome. Like you might be a particularly kind person, you expect that other person to be kind, or you might be patient and you expect that from the other person. So our biggest disappointments in life are our unmet expectations. So letting go of our expectations of other people, other events, other outcomes can be really, really powerful because it gives you the peace then to just relinquish any kind of attachment that you have to that outcome. And if we go back to the relationship part and we talk about relationships, I suppose here's something that's very valuable that really helps me and helped me in the past is to say you cannot have a healthy relationship with an unhealthy person. So if you bring that back to if you're in a relationship with someone, it's a friendship or a partnership, and that person isn't willing to do their work to help them grow. And work for everybody looks different. I mean, it doesn't have to be all like Zen and meditation, but if you're not willing to kind of look at, I suppose, their shadow selves and grow and improve and I suppose embrace change and even, I suppose, constructive feedback, then you have to at some point give yourself permission to let go of the expectation of change in that relationship. Now, sometimes that can mean that the relationship comes to an end. Sometimes it means that the relationship changes, that it's a pause, that you take a step back from the relationship and observe. It also could mean that the when you give yourself permission to kind of, I suppose, let go of your expectations in the relationship, it also brings you back to the idea of that in every transaction, there is never a case that you are 100% responsible for any transaction in the whole entire world. A transaction, just by its nature, is two different forces, or more than one force, we'll say. So if you bring it to relationships, it's two people. Even if you're 99%, the other person still has to have a minimum of 1%. So you've got to look at that. So often when we're in relationships and we get into the feeling of like, this is not working for me, I'm not really feeling like we're on the same page. If it's a case of maybe distancing yourself or stepping away, course the big emotion of guilt or I suppose fear comes in, and we tend to take all the responsibility on our particularly wide shoulders. And here's the thing is you are not responsible for other people's healing. You're not responsible for other people's happiness. So when you are in a situation where you might want to take a step back, is to understand that the other person is responsible for their happiness and their healing. And sometimes when we take a step back, they step forward. Sometimes that is what they need. That as long as we're kind of holding everything together, we're kind of nearly preventing them from stepping forward. So by taking a step back, it allows them to have the opportunity to step forward. And if they don't step forward and they don't use the opportunity to heal or grow, that is their journey. That is their journey to maybe their journey on in this lifetime is to maintain that status quo for their lifetime. And here's the other thing that I want to bring it back to. So I used the analogy in part one about the tree shedding its leaves. And I was reminded of this beautiful analogy to the leaves that we may shed. So if there is a place, a venue, a situation, a person that you shed, when leaves shed from the trees, they come down into the earth. And of course, when they hit the earth, they turn into something even more beautiful. They go into the mulch, they become soil, they become food for animals, for plants, they become fungi, they even go right deep down into the earth and can become minerals and diamonds. There's all sorts of amazing opportunities for that leaf in its new life. So here's the thing, that when we are holding on to something that is not working, regardless of whether the other person wants that or not, or we want that or not, it's the idea that when something changes, it doesn't just change on your side, it also changes on the other side. So keeping it the same can also be standing in the way of keeping them the same. So when we change, we give other people permission to change. And when you're on your journey of healing and growing, life is a full journey of healing and growing. People grow at different rates. Like everybody's growing, but people are just maybe growing at different rates, because as we grow older, we grow in confidence, we grow in self-esteem, we grow in wisdom, because wisdom comes from life experience. So we grow in them even without trying. But when we are also active in our pursuit of growth, that maybe we are having a little look inwards, maybe we're doing some work on ourselves, maybe inner child work, shadow work, it doesn't have to be that, but maybe art too, then you might be growing at a different rate even than your friends. And sometimes what happens is, as you grow at a faster rate, your friends or the people you work with or the people who are important to you mightn't catch up at the same rate. Now, does that mean you have to banish them all from your life? Definitely not. You just have to understand that your relationship with them has changed. And you don't have to bulldoze your new way of being with them. And you don't have to, unless you want to, you don't have to banish them just because they're not keeping up with you. So what you do is you find a happy medium where you have respectful and healthy boundaries. And the boundaries are how you can respect yourself and them at the same time. So say, for example, if one of your growth decisions was like you became vegan, or you gave up smoking, or you gave up alcohol, you gave up smoking weed, just something that you just felt, now I'm at the stage of my life, I'm going to step forward a little bit more in my own life. It doesn't mean that when you go back to your old group of friends that you return to that behavior. What you do is you present how you are now. You say, thank you, but no thank you. This is my choice for going forward. The people who are genuinely important to you and that matter and that are there for you, your real, true friends, true people, they will support your decision. And then the other people may not. And that's okay, because maybe what you've done has triggered something in them. Maybe they're not ready to accept your changes. So it might be a case, again, you don't have to fall out with anybody. You don't have to banish people from your life. But what might work is that you see them in a different environment. So rather than the friends that you went to the pub with, you might meet one of them for coffee. Maybe the acquaintances that decided to kind of, rant and rave about the boss, maybe now you go for a walk on your lunchtime with them, or you go and do an activity with them, like a swim on a lunch break, as opposed to sitting listening to the environment. Because what happens to us when we change, and this is a human condition, is it's called the nibble effect. And there is an actual book called The Nibble. And what it is when we grow in a direction that we pull away from our groups of people, the people in our groups subconsciously become triggered. And it's like, no, we don't want them to change, because maybe when they change, they'll go off and they'll leave us behind. And it's not anything to do with hate, jealousy, hate, or resentment. It's just fear on their own part. They want everything to stay the same. And we all do. Our brain is wired that way. So what they do, what happens is in human life, they nibble at us to kind of bring us back. So the nibbles might come in refusing to accept the changes that we make, ignoring the statements that we make about some of the changes that we've made, demanding expectations from us that are more in line with the person before they grew. They might be slagging, there might be conflict. There's lots of different things that happen in order for us to nibble back into the situation. There could be even some emotional manipulation. And most of the time that's done on a subconscious level. But here's the thing is you cannot change other people. You can only control your own behavior. So what it is first of all, understanding that that's a possibility. Now you're aware of it and you say, that's just a nibble effect. That's just a nibble effect. You got to stand in your own power, know and respect yourself in the changes and the growth that you make. And then you got to, I suppose, maintain healthy boundaries with people if you want to keep them in your life. And if you don't and you want to let go of them, you want to give yourself permission to no longer have an expectation of that relationship or that person healing. Give yourself permission to just let go of that. Let go of the outcome. If you have a grumpy boss or a stressed out co-worker, give yourself permission to not, it's not your job to heal them. And give yourself permission to let go of the outcome of them healing. They are who they are. Their journey is who they are. And all you can do, the best way to promote healing and growth is by your own behavior. When people see that you're calm, when people see that you're happy, people see that you're kind, you inspire other people by your light and not by your, I suppose, unmet expectations and disappointment of their lack of change. So remember, to really leave you on some of the most important points in that talk is nobody is 100% responsible for any transaction. A transaction in itself involves more than one person. So if you're trying to save a friendship or a relationship, you can only do, your 50%. That other person, those other people, they've got to bring something to the table as well. Okay. If healing is to take place. The other part is sometimes when we do decide to let go, what happens for the person or the event or the situation that we let go of, it turns into something even more fabulous and more wonderful because that's their journey in life. And so us keeping things the same is also kind of keeping people trapped in that not uncomfortable enough energy. They're not quite happy, but they're not quite sad. They're just in the middle there. But everybody deserves to be happy. So maybe you could be freeing them from that. And I suppose just stay away from the guilt. It's everybody has their own individual journey on this planet. And the most kind of draining energy we have is to have unrealistic expectations of life. Just let go of those, let go of your attachment to those expectations, accept people for who they are. Doesn't mean you have to accept bad behavior, but you can certainly accept people for who they are and try and bring a bit of compassion. Not everybody on this journey of life has the capacity to grow at the rate that you grow at. So just bring the compassion through trying to understand where they're coming from, and that builds a huge level of tolerance. So I know that's a little bit over my time today. I hope you enjoyed part 2. Do feel free to give me feedback because it certainly informs the next talks that we have. And make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date with the talks, and keep in touch. Let me know how you're getting on. And I will be posting now next week on a beautiful talk on survival strategies for the upcoming season. And that'll be released, I suppose, in the next few days, actually. So we get it in time before we hit the craziness that December brings at this side of the world. So goodbye, everybody. For now, have an amazing day. And I look forward to connecting all back in again next week. Take care and see you all soon. Thanks again for all your support, and a pleasure as always making these podcasts for everybody and getting the feedback that they really help people which is just warms my heart. And if you enjoy following me on JenTalks and you get some value from the talks, do let people know, do share, do point people in this direction. There just isn't enough support out there for people, particularly people who can't get out of their houses, that are stuck at home, that could do with a bit of comfort and a bit of support. And next week, I'm also going to be talking about survival strategies, but I'm also going to be teaching you tools, because we can talk till we're blue in the face, but we need tools as well. So I will be bringing the tools and the tips for surviving the holiday season. So take care, and I'll see you all again next week. Thanks again.